I'm just calling from here.
Getting some feedback here.
Tell me if it goes away.
It's gone now. It's back.
Oh, okay. I wonder why. That's my headset.
Can you guys see my window?
Looks good.
Okay. All right, should we get started? It's 3 past.
Sounds good.
I think that's great.
So let's maybe start by looking at the 0.6 roadmap as nicely defined. So I think the goal was to declare the block storage as beta. Let's come back to that for a second. Kubernetes 1.8 support. I believe that's done, although I don't know, are we testing on 1.8 now?
Yes, we have a whole pipeline with every pull request now that's running 1.8. So we have the 1.6, 1.7, and 1.8.
Okay. And then the volume plugin is Steve on? Okay, so we'll come back to that.
Yeah. Steve's getting on the call now.
Okay, so sounds like the pull request approved. It needs a rebase. My understanding is that we're going to try to get it to master maybe as soon as today. But there's a pile of follow-on issues that will happen in subsequent PRs. Is that the case?
Yeah, I think Steve can speak better to it, but that's what it looked like after the weekend.
Is Steve on now, or is he getting on? Is that the?
He's getting on right now.
Okay, that sounds good. We'll wait for it. We'll give him a second.
Yeah. Should be up in 30 seconds.
And then we have the, let's keep going. We have the upgradable, Rook is upgradable. So at this point we have manual instructions for upgrading, but we don't have the automation around upgrades. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then support for local storage. This is arbitrary volumes underneath OSD pod and actually mon pods too. That's not done.
Right. That's not done, and I still have a ticket in the project to look at that, but it was more about understanding and making sure it's not blocking. As and we talked about not needing to actually build on local storage for 0.6.
Yeah. And then support for public cloud environments. This was just, essentially make sure that we can run there. And then there is a blog that Pavel was working on, but there wasn't really much changes beyond, say, supporting local volumes and the flex volume.
I believe that's correct.
Okay. And the test matrix and more test coverage, that's things like covering Blue Store and covering devices and all sorts of other stuff that I think we're still missing in coverage.
Well, there is a PR that's either going to commit today or got committed a couple of days ago from Jared that switches us to Blue Store in the test matrix.
Yeah.
We're getting some of that.
Okay.
In this milestone, we've definitely increased the test matrix too, or there's been a lot of work done there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not a very specific statement as far as which things, but yeah, still more to do there.
Cool. And then the CRDs for object storage and file system are both in, correct?
That's right.
Okay. So Steve, we were just talking about the flex volume. It sounds like it needs a rebase, and then the idea is to merge it, but there's a pile of follow-ups that you'll do in separate PRs. Is that correct?
Yes, I was actually thinking this through the weekend, and if we just to address the changes that you already put on the PR, I can quickly do that, test it, and then submit a new PR. Or
were those all minor issues?
there was one of the bigger issues where we're doing a lot of things on the driver. When I say a lot of things, specifically mounting and formatting, and Basam suggested to move that into the agent. Now, the reason why this was done on the driver side is because the driver actually runs on the context of the host, and the agent doesn't know ahead of time where Kubernetes is expecting a directory to be mounted and formatted. So we can do our best guess by giving the agent ahead of time, hey, this is where I expect the volume to Kubernetes to map. So we can do something like that.
Yeah, the reason that this is critical is that, mount tools, format tools, all those things will exist in our containers and might or might not exist on the host. And so the whole premise of using the agent design that we went with is that the agent just is, the flex volume does very little, and the agent does all the heavy lifting, including mounting and formatting. So I feel like, what you have in there seems to work. So I'm okay with it going to master, and then you can follow on with a PR that changes that. That's fine with me. Sounds like everybody else approved the pull request and it's running and passing tests.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to go to master. People were waiting for it.
It is a very big PR. It takes forever to load on a page. So,
yeah, that's why I suggested to do a PR, a different PR, because it's just it feels like breaking GitHub. Okay, I'll do that. I'll rebase right now. Have the test run, and then I'll open up a bunch of PRs related to your comments, Basam.
Yeah, well, issues. Yeah,
issues, right? Yeah, sorry, issues.
I just made a pass through all the issues, and it looks like there's. I think there's like 15 or 20 issues that are either going to be closed because of the Rook agent, or are somehow pending after that. But maybe what you can do, Steve, is rebase it, we'll merge it, and then make a pass through all the issues assigned to you. Either close them or label them appropriately, or add new ones coming out of things that fell out of the review.
Sure, I'll do that. I'll go through the issues, and also create more issues corresponding to your reviews.
Okay, cool. And then, I think we should explicitly ask for community test on this. So we can probably tweet about it and ask for feedback on this. I feel like we need to get some broader testing of this and people running through their scenarios before we declare 0.6 complete.
Yeah, this is why I was pushing this to be merged, so that it can get exposure and used by the community right away. So there's some people being using. Alexander used my private Docker build.
Yeah.
But yes, that's definitely what we need to do.
Yeah, I saw a couple of people are using it. Some guy was using it on the Postgres, which is really cool. So that's great. Okay, so the upgrade, did we decide that we're just going to do the manual upgrade and call it done for 0.6? I don't remember.
Yes, that's what we decided.
So
and then in 0.7, we want to do the automatic upgrade.
Okay, so this comes back to can we declare block storage as beta without it? Right.
Well, what those instructions do is they allow you to upgrade from 0.5 to 0.6.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think the blocker for beta is, would I lose my data? And so that's really about upgrade from 0.6 to future releases.
Yeah, I thought the criteria was that we wanted to say that once you've deployed 0.6, which is a beta, that going forward, we will upgrade you and disk formats and anything related to block storage carries forward. So if you were to deploy this in a production environment or a staging environment, that you wouldn't have to tear it down and upgrade it manually or do whatever is needed. That investment carries forward.
And that's absolutely the intent here. But the automation won't be in place until the release after this one.
Well, is there more to this beyond the automation piece? So, for example, are we confident that without local volume storage, local storage, that we are able to say that we can carry up 0.6 cluster to 0.7?
I think it would, in that case, that you could continue using the host path. You wouldn't have to use the local storage option. So that might be a shortcoming, like suboptimal configuration if you're on host path. I think it would be possible to upgrade that.
Okay. Are there others? I'm just trying to think of, is it realistic that we would tell people you can deploy 0.6 and then when 0.7 comes along, that the 0.7 release notes will have upgrade instructions that will not have to tear down the cluster and start again.
Mm-hmm.
That was the criteria as I understood for 0.6.
And it's my understanding that the upgrade instructions we have with 0.6 allow that now. And that the intent in 0.7 is to automate those instructions. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's my understanding too. Be great to have Jared here to confirm.
Okay. Well, to me, that seems like that would be the issue that would make make block storage beta or not.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think anytime going forward, we're going to have to look at every feature and say, how can we do this so it's upgradable? And every feature, we have to look at the CRDs and make sure they're not breaking change, and local storage will be one of those, and we'll have to find a way to make sure there's a way to upgrade.
Yeah, I'm just thinking it as like, think of it from a customer perspective or a user perspective. They deploy 0.6, they run some workload on top of it, whether it's databases or whatever they're doing on top of it. We are promising them that they don't have to tear it down anymore as a 0.6. And then when 0.7 comes along, they have to do some stuff. It's not automated, but we're carrying their data forward. Right? And we're also not changing the CRDs in a breaking way. If we are, we'd have to document them and upgrade instructions. So think of it from a perspective of somebody just deployed 0.6. They started running all these workloads on top of it. It's running fine. 0.7 comes along. All of this has to carry forward. If there are breaking changes, then we have to document them. We have to, make sure there's an upgrade path for block storage, not for object, not for file system, just for block storage. So that means, I think it means cluster pool at a minimum, Rook agent, that whole path of block storage underneath pods needs to be, carried forward. So we don't have an answer right now. I just want to make it sure that we don't, say that it's beta and it really isn't.
So looks like right now the difference is that we actually not turning the cluster, right? It's just that for 0.6, the user will have to do that manually, the upgrade. The class is still intact, and it is upgradable. It's just that it requires user manually intervention.
Yeah, no, and I think that's okay. I'm just saying that we have to feel comfortable that the whole data path and all the components related to block storage will survive an upgrade, and people's data will be persistent when they go from 0.6 to 0.7.
Right, and just to make sure we're clear, we're not saying that we support O.5 upgrades to O.6.
That's correct.
Right.
The criteria we used for beta was, I think, exactly that. Somebody going from 0.6 to 0.7 does not lose their cluster for block storage.
Right.
And that we feel that the CRDs which is now essentially our public interface, the CRDs for cluster and pool are ones that we want to carry forward. Like we would change them from alpha to beta, the namespace name or whatever, spec name or whatever, it becomes beta.
Yep.
Let's go back to that. Are we confident that that's where we are right now, or do we want to think about it a little?
Well, I don't know that there are any known major issues that would block upgrade in those CRDs. I think there's just some work we need to do with the CRDs. Like, well, when you update the cluster CRD, you add new nodes or whatever, the operator needs to wake up and go respond to that. I don't know why that would impact upgrade though. And I don't know of any need to change the schema of the CRDs. That's where it would be painful as far as the upgrade.
Okay. I mean, some things I can think of are, certainly getting more mileage on the Rook agent, which is now on the new data path. That could be a risk to calling it that beta. Things like host path and restarts or losing state, not because the state is lost, but because things got mangled somehow. I saw a bunch of tickets around that. Mon reliability issues. flapping, moving too fast, losing IP issues, those kinds of things. There's still a bunch of outstanding tickets there. Um,
Yeah,
Shutdown, restart issues, hangs, those kinds of things. I mean, we're not going to fix everything in 0.6. I'm just saying, I'm asking the question: do we feel like it's beta quality yet, or not?
I feel like what the biggest piece missing is customer validation. Like how many people have actually tried this and would trust their data with it? Do we have do we have external people? And we have some people playing with it and trying it. You know,
Yeah.
having a major customer that says, yes, we've tested this in our environment. It's not just a test environment. It's like real data. That would be awesome to be able to declare with a beta.
I agree. That's my biggest concern also.
Okay. So are you saying it's a little bit of chicken and egg until you say this is ready, we're not going to get more people testing it?
Yeah, that is part of it too. How do you get people
Yeah.
to prove it before you think it's ready?
I think it is a little chicken and egg. One thing we might do is, on the Slack channel or something, start, somehow promoting. We're heading to beta. Can you kick the tires, kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. I think that sounds fine. Sounds like we're at least a couple of weeks away from wrapping up 0.6. Is that fair?
That seemed like the right timeline to me. Just let's giving the new flex volume a little time to be run and others to validate and everything.
Okay. Sounds good. So we can talk about 0.7 or we can talk about the issues.
Before we go to 0.7, could we talk about CFFS for 0.6? So from the last meeting that I had with you, Bassam and Jared, I think we decided to use the kernel module of CFFS for now, and later in the future, possibly 0.7, use CFFuse, right? So one thing about the kernel CFFS is that support for multiple file system is on kernel version 4.7 and after. And I tested that. I tested this is actually on a Ubuntu 1604 LTS. The kernel version there is 4.4, and it wasn't working. It wasn't working to mount a specific file system.
Yeah.
So the idea is that we talked about was to do a uname-r kind of check when the user wants to attach a CFFS, and if the kernel is 4.7 or before, then we error out, or we say that, hey, we cannot mount it. But if it's after, then it's okay. Is that still the plan? I just want to make sure that everyone here is clear.
Yeah, so my thinking on this is that right now we've got a lot going, just getting this Rook flex volume path to be stable. So what I would say is that just use RBD, KRBD, and kernel CFFS, even if it has a lot of rough edges on it. Now that we have this in place, we're on a path to use Fuse if needed, and use NBD, RBD, or PCMU runner, or all those things. And I think that should be part of 0.7.
And just to be clear,
let me just finish the thought. So when we're able to do that, then we can actually dynamically at runtime decide whether the capabilities of the kernel or whatever is needed on the node support running the best path that we know is the fastest or most stable path. And if not, we can fall back gracefully to, user mode or NBD, RBD, all that stuff. we now have the ability to do that. And that was an explicit design point for the agent, but I don't think we should do that now.
Okay. And when you say use KRBD, you using KRBD through the Rook agent, not through the existing plugin Kubernetes in-tree plugin, right?
Yeah, and
Okay.
we have no plans to use the
Okay.
volume plugin in Kubernetes for Ceph anymore.
Yeah. So there's the issue there is that with the new PR that Travis submitted last week, where you can create multiple file system, if you were to create more than one file system, let's say you have 2 of them, and then you try to mount it from a node that does not, that is 0, that's older than 4.7, then it would error out.
That's okay. Let's just document that. Say for
Okay.
0.6, we don't support multiple file systems. And that, I think that's okay.
Okay, and the thing is that the user will be, because when you create 2 file system, and then you use and then you try to attach it, not using the MDS namespace, so one of them will get attached, possibly the first one. So the user will not know explicitly which one got attached, right? Out of the 2 of them.
Yeah, so let's just document it.
Okay.
And say for now, only one file system is supported, and you can create issues around what needs to happen around this to fix this. And then, well, I think we'll do it in 0.7. File system is not a priority in 0.6.
Okay.
And also, if we could, I'd say we could declare that experimental. In Ceph, multiple file systems is actually still experimental.
For sure.
So we could just say it's experimental, and here's a known issue.
Yeah, the file system CRDs are alpha, right?
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're good. I don't think there is any issue here. The good news is that we have an architecture in place to essentially be able to dynamically manage all of this, right? We will be able to run Fuse if we decide to, and that could be a runtime decision.
All right, cool. Okay, I just want to make sure that everyone was on the same page as me, so
yeah,
that's good.
Okay, anything else? I think we should talk about 0.7.
Yeah, I'd like to spend a couple of minutes on 0.7 before we go back and look at the 0.6 issues.
Okay. So I went through all the issues today, and I came up with a bunch of themes we should probably talk about that I think, but I think it'll be great if you guys can all chime in on what do you think needs to happen in 0.7. If the goal is to declare block storage production ready in 0.7, I think there's a number of things that need to happen. All that we've talked about, but I think things around mon reliability. So this is the issue of the mons failing over too quickly, or they're based on a timeout, or the mon map changes have not been broadcast, or even some issues around mons hanging or not restarting, or there's a number of issues open on this. I think all of those have to be, resolved. So one of the themes I think is mon reliability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely makes sense. And there was a little work done on that. Alexander submitted that PR, but anyway, yeah, definitely more to be done.
Here, why don't I So mon reliability is this is restarts, failing over. Okay. I think the whole issue of the durability of state, which Jared started looking at. So this includes local volume support.
The local storage, you mean? Or
yeah, sorry, local storage support.
Yeah.
Making sure that all config is regeneratable. Sounds like we made some progress there.
I think with what he did, I'm not sure what's left with that one because all the metadata for OSDs at least is
At a minimum, we should be testing complete destruction of a cluster and having it come back. So
kind of like with including offsite backup
yeah,
type of deal. Okay.
I think of it as there's stuff that we have, the operator has an etcd. That's all the CRDs in our state. And then there are volumes underneath, mostly OSDs and MONs, right? And we should be able to create a cluster. In fact, I'd argue we should be able to kind of move a cluster as a test of this.
Yep, that would be as good a test as any.
So there's automated upgrade, right? So we've also said that we want to be able to run, everywhere. And to me, that means Rook agent uses fuse, Ceph fuse, NBD, RBD, or TCMU runner.
So are we saying we want this is get file to beta?
No. I certainly NBD, RBD are higher priority, but this is the case of I run Rook on top of a plain Kubernetes cluster wherever, and it should work. Regardless of kernel version or regardless of what's supported, it should just work. And I think we're on a path to do that. But until we get some of the like NBD, RBD, or Ceph fuse, I think we're still reliant on kernel versions. Right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So shutdown, restart issues.
Now there's the operator HA mode.
Yep, which is actually, I think, a very small change, but okay.
Yeah.
There's a number of issues around logging, both in terms of levels, granularity. I think we're down this path and we should probably talk about it, but are we on a path to remove the API and CLI? I think we are.
Yeah, it really is ready. It's just a matter of,
okay.
I think, it hasn't been a priority because so often we use Rook CTL and
yeah.
I think the idea is that it becomes optional, but I know that there are quantum products that are using the API today. So
okay, so we should figure out what the right timing is. Given everything we've learned around the declarative management pattern of Kubernetes, I think we probably are on a path to say there's CRDs to manage the entire surface area of Rook. And if you need anything more, then you should fall back to the toolbox and use the Ceph CLI.
that makes sense.
Okay. So that, I think that means that the Rook API and the equivalent CLI are deprecated at a minimum. They could still be there, but we're deprecating them.
I don't know there is some scenario for REST API for someone who wants who isn't running inside the Rook toolbox, but anyway, so as long as it's an optional component, that seems like it gets us what we care about.
I think this is an important discussion then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can use the Kubernetes API.
Right. Well, so let's say someone wants to tell me the status of the monitors. So they have to go run a Rook toolbox and get the output of Ceph status?
Well, that's a detailed Ceph question. They should be able to use the Ceph REST API.
I think that's what we are doing right now, because to use it, at least for me, to use the Rook CTL, I actually have to spawn the Rook tool container to get it.
I'm asking the question of, does Rook need a RESTful API?
So I have the understanding that it needs to have an API for like the things like object store users. I think that's not handled to CRDs yet. So I'm not sure if there's more APIs that we are not supporting through CRDs.
I'm asking an architectural question. I ignore the state of where things are right now. We are, I believe we're down a path of saying that we are going to adopt a declarative management model, and that the Kubernetes API is how you essentially tell Rook to do things. And given that, and given that the Kubernetes API is a RESTful API, we define all the resources. And is there a need for a Rook-specific RESTful API beyond that?
Dan, you're on mute.
And then there is also the fact, keep in mind that there is certainly a Ceph CLI today that does things, and then there is also a Ceph RESTful API being added to Ceph Manager.
So the one thing that jumps out to me is certain kinds of status. Like I think your comments about the Ceph monitor status is entirely correct. You should just go to the Ceph command line or API or something and get it from there. But do we have a way through the Kubernetes API to get any sort of health information or metric information about the storage cluster?
No, I think you're right, Dan. The story is kind of weak, actually, with CRDs and status. So I could see this as both improvements that need to happen in Kubernetes. Like, how do we get a status of a CRD? And how do we even get progress information about what's currently in play, right?
So maybe Rook still has an API, but it's only for things that are not handled by the CRDs.
Correct. Or you can imagine even status and monitoring or perf or all that stuff is handled through Postgres exports, or not Postgres, but Prometheus, things like the Prometheus exporter or others right now. But in general, I'm just trying to plot a path, a longer term path. I think in general, we can go improve CRDs to support better status. Right? That is an option. I mean, there's a whole working group starting on how to improve declarative management in Kubernetes, and we should take that feedback to them. Assuming that these things get fixed, I don't think there is room for our own RESTful API anymore.
I totally agree. Rook itself does not have a reason for a REST API. It's really status information.
Yeah. Okay. And by implication, I think that means that there is no CLI.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Right, but I think there's a path to get to that, right?
Yeah, and it could take 9 releases to get there. But I'm just saying we should just be clear about what the roles of the API and CLI are, and I think it would make sense to deprecate it, or at least say that we have that this current discussion be clear so that we don't add more features to the API.
Or the API stays alpha, so we can totally remove it, or at a minimum.
Or just declare our intent that we would like to remove this. If we can find, improve status on CRDs, then there's no need for this API anymore.
Yeah, I think we should just be pretty direct about that and say, I don't know if the term is deprecated or not, but call it alpha and say that the intent is to remove this once suitable platform, Kubernetes native ways to do these things are available.
Agree. What else needs to go in here?
So one thing that I think a lot about is the cluster lifecycle. So adding and removing devices, adding and removing nodes. I think all those need to be supported. It seems to me that adding a node is probably the easiest thing on the list. But how does Rook know that a node is going away? How do we handle the maintenance life cycle around disk drives, etc.?
Yeah. And related to that, I don't know, you need to write it down, but cleaning up of resources, Kubernetes 1.8 has this feature that you just declare the owner and it'll clean things up for you. Little things like that.
There's actually a whole slew of things around CRD validation.
And validation, yeah.
Cleanup, progress, status. There's this whole slew of things, and this requires, I think, engagement with the API SIG.
So on the adding and removing nodes, let's not forget adding and removing disk drives.
Yeah.
And handling failed disk drives.
And kind of around that, I think is better support for crush maps, or make sure when I add a node, I know where it's going in the crush map, and I can replace something in the crush map. Yeah.
And related to both of those, there's automatic balancing.
Why doesn't Ceph already takes care of that? Is this the placement group stuff?
Ceph doesn't automatically balance.
Right, it doesn't automatically balance placement groups, but okay, I see what you're saying.
But I think Rook would need to, right? And it may be as simple as just calling the Ceph manager balance command.
Yeah, which, I mean, this work just went into as a module in Ceph Manager, right? There's a balancer module now.
That's right, and I don't know why we wouldn't use it. So it could be a very simple, well, I think we need to add the feature, and the implementation could be pretty lightweight.
Is that available already on the Ceph Manager that we have right now, or is that a module or a plugin that needs to be added to the Ceph Manager?
I don't know exactly. There's plenty of, blogs that show its use.
I think it's in there. I mean, if it's in Luminous, it's in there. We don't strip anything out.
No, I think the question is it like an app, a Python app you have to download and plug into Ceph Manager?
No, I think all the modules are in tree.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay.
I'm not aware of any that are not.
And then is there anything about object getting to beta in 0.7?
I don't know.
That used to be on the list.
Yeah.
I don't know why we wouldn't be able to get there. It should be fairly close, or much less risk than file store.
Can you break that down and state what that means to getting object into beta? Or is that just usage?
I think it means the same thing as it does for block storage. The CRDs for object storage would be stable enough to be used in a production environment, and that we would upgrade them going forward. So we would be saying that block storage is, ready.
Yeah, but is there issues with for things like we had encountered before with cluster, like failover, HA, configuration state not being saved, stuff like that that we have encountered with block?
I mean, OSDs are where all of this happens. RGW is stateless.
I think implementation-wise, it's easier than block, and
Sure.
Probably a lot closer to beta than block is today.
I mean, roughly, if you follow the kind of the Ceph architecture, by declaring block storage beta, we're also declaring Rados, beta, and RGW relies on Rados.
Okay.
Yeah. are there any object storage things specifically that need to be on here? I didn't see much in the issue list around object storage.
There's
The
like,
one object store thing I'm aware of is that I think we'd like to change the way that we terminate SSL. And right now we're terminating at the RGW.
Oh, I did see that. I saw somebody open a ticket and they actually made a really simple change to use the ingress controller.
Yeah, that's 1042, and that looks like a great idea. And
that could terminate SSL, right?
the ingress controller can terminate SSL, HA proxy can terminate, or Nginx can terminate SSL. There's a bunch of ways you can do it, but I think we'd like to, well, certainly if we're using the ingress controller, we'd like to terminate it there.
That sounds really good. And it looks like somebody already has it running, so that's even more promising.
Well, they have the ingress controller. I don't know.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, they have the ingress controller running instead of using node port, which is great.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
I would like to bring in the multi-geo support.
In 0.7?
Yeah.
As part of object storage beta, that probably makes sense.
What is this replication?
Geo replication.
Between storage clusters for object storage, right?
Yes.
I think what would be more important is to get snapshotting capabilities for the object store and expose it to the users. A lot of users would like to see that.
For object or for block?
Block?
Oh, for block, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. For the block. And I think it would be more important than providing geo-replication.
So there's this whole working group in SIG storage looking at snapshots, and it sounds like they're going to define a set of new API objects for snapshotting. I wonder if we tie into that support.
Yes, that would be wonderful, yes. But there still would be work needed to be done on our end.
I see.
Yeah, if we're treating object and block independently, though, as far as beta and all that, I think the or the replication across object stores, it's on this object store side of things.
Yeah,
which we should have in the list.
This is a big list.
Yeah.
how about the whole user management for object storage? I know we rely on the API to do that. And if we are in a path of deprecating the API, should we do something on 0.7 to address that?
So is there a reason why we can't just put the users in a CRD?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think part of object store beta is that there's a CRD for users.
Or it's a property of the object store CRD or something. Maybe it's a child CRD.
Yeah, I think it's just another CRD that it'll belong to a certain object store.
I see. Okay. Well, that needs a little bit of design.
Another design, yeah.
So these seem. If I was to group these, I'd say.
Are you putting all the object store at the bottom, like?
Just to group them mentally, so I can.
Yeah.
This list.
There's the ingress controller for RGW to move down.
Yeah. And then are we saying that, I think we talked about performance testing as being a beta thing. We're not going to focus on performance until we declare something's beta. I'm assuming then performance testing for block storage is somewhere here, right? Or else how do you get to production?
Yeah, sounds right to me.
It would be hard to declare block storage production ready in 0.7 if we've not understood the performance issues around it. Okay. Yeah, this is a pretty big list. Well, let's think about it for a little bit. I don't want to say let's start committing to it. I mean, we still have a couple of weeks on 0.6, but it would be good to think through ways of either trimming this or figuring out how to get, or at least trying to understand if this is doable in the time frame that we're thinking about.
Well, if we want it by KubeCon, we're down to less than 2 months, and that, yeah, it doesn't seem like we're anywhere near realistic for that timeline for all of this, at least.
I think we'd have to restructure this somehow to get to
Yeah.
KubeCon day.
Okay, let's take this offline. I think this is a reasonable untrimmed list. It needs to be trimmed. Okay. I'll save it, although it's going to lose its formatting. I've noticed that they don't. Okay. What else?
Well, we can look at the 0.6 tickets briefly.
Well, so I made it pass through those already. I really think that it might be a better use of time if everyone can go through their tickets and just close, update, as needed.
Well, what about just the 0.6 tickets to see what's left?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
By the way, I just rebased and the test passed for the flex volume. So if one of you code reviewers would like to merge.
Oh, you already passed? All right, okay, let's do it here.
Group celebration.
Yeah, this was a very, very large amount of work. Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Oh my God, I think I waited. I lost 100 pounds on my body right now.
Are you? Can we turn on the video and you can do a little dance, Steve? No?
Maybe for KubeCon.
Cool. So, yeah.
Why do we care about Minikube?
For testing.
Okay.
Where we have, I believe it's being used on a kind of developer testing, quick developer testing. And it's a really simple, just enable RBAC.
Can we assign that to somebody?
I said to Devesh.
Yeah, I can take it. It's one-liner.
Well, maybe a clarification on the tickets we're looking at here. There are things that I think block 0.6, and there are things that they're little things, and we'll fix them in the next 2 weeks type of thing. How can we differentiate between these? Because I think this one is one of those where it's not required because it's running KubeADM where RBAC is working.
I don't know if there's a good way to differentiate besides using labels, but for now, why don't we just go through them, leave them, and if we need to, in 2 weeks, push them out, we should.
Okay.
Well, like that one, the cube atom one is not on the board, right? So that's one way we distinguish them, right?
Which cube atom issue?
The one, the top one. I mean, that's 925.
This one, oh, the mini cube.
Oh, minikube.
Yeah, it's not on the
It's on the project board. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The project thing is a little
Awkward. They're distinct, right?
This is I think the milestone is the authoritative list. The project is a reflection of that.
Okay.
Okay, so improved coverage for block and long haul testing, that's still in play, right?
I think the answer must be yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. That's pretty much done. I'm going to rebase after Steve's PR is done, run a few tests there, and should be ready to close. We have
The
better
two Jared
coverage.
Blue Store ones are, I think, nearly done and super important.
Yeah. And so these are the follow-up ones. The fencing is already in, right, Steve?
Yes. So that PR that you just merged, I think knocked out. I think 2 or 3 of these PR that are here.
Oh, there are probably 10 or 15 issues that need to be closed now. So can you make a pass at everything related to Rook Agent and update them, please? Not just the 0.6. There, I saw a lot more.
I will.
Okay. Is there? I don't see anything in here that feels completely out of place. Do you guys see anything here that's out of place?
Yeah, not necessarily out of place. Isn't 767 done?
It is done. I'm going to close it.
Okay.
I updated the test, and I haven't been able to reproduce that.
Okay.
In fact, I'm using that in our long haul test too now, so I haven't really seen any issues there. Yeah, our long haul test just creates the pool PVC storage class all in just one big YAML, and so far it's good.
And Pavel, you're going to do this document how to migrate TPRs thing?
Yes, I will do it.
Okay. All right, we're almost out of time. I think let's go. Please go through your tickets and update the ones, especially you, Steve, because you've got the biggest change here. And then in the next, so the next meeting is 2 weeks from now. Let's make a call on whether 0.6 is ready and what needs to be bumped out or not.
Sounds good.
All right.
Great.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.